Welcome to the Sports Card Lessons Podcast. I'm your host, Big Ken. Whether you're watching on YouTube or listening on a streaming service, please like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell. You'll be notified whenever I drop any new content. Welcome. Thanks for being here. First football Sunday of the week. Who is not excited? Come on. I've got so many fantasy teams. I talked about this last week that I rushed home this morning. Well, I got home like 12:20. I'm like, okay, I've got time. I got to set all my lineups and go through. I was on my last team and I'm trying to set the lineup. It won't set. I look at the clock and it's 1:02, and I'm like, oh, well, I'm going with the lineup I had already, put up a couple days ago, which was pretty much the same. There was only one player change, so we'll see if it actually made a difference by the end of the day or not. But just crazy that there's so much work to go in. I talked about being a full-time job, and it really is, not only for this, but then we're going to get to waiver wire Tuesday, and it's going to be a long year for me. Happy my Chiefs won on Thursday night. It was nice to start out the season with them, and a nice W on the board. I had a friend of mine call me or messaged me on Friday morning and said, wow, congrats. That was a great game last night, except for that bad call at the end. And I said, bad call? I mean, the dude was out of bounds. There was no call on that. You couldn't have called it anything else. But yeah, I'm happy to start out with a W, just like, they say with fantasy, they're like, oh, the first couple of weeks, they don't really matter. The players aren't playing up to their potential and all this other stuff. But to me, if you can get a couple of those W's early, the first week or two of the season, that could pay dividends coming down. It could be the difference between getting in the playoffs or not, down the road. So yeah, it's every week is important with fantasy. It was a busy hobby weekend for me. Saturday, I was at the Causeway show in Boston. And this morning I rushed home. I was at a local show here in Orange, Connecticut this morning. And I looked at the clock and I'm like, oh man, I got to get home and set my lineup. So I darted out of there a little early to get home for that. But before I recap the shows and share my pickups, we're just going to jump right into today's episode. I mean, we got football games to watch, so we're gonna hustle through this today. So today's episode, right? It can't always be about the money. So a funny thing happened to me. I have someone that I do deals with, that they buy stuff from me, and they have been over a year. Reach out to me, hey, do you have any of this? Do you have that? Or I know kind of things they like, and I throw them up there. I'll say, hey, this is what I have. And I do a lot of deals, and I'm not giving this stuff away, obviously, but I know I'm leaving meat on the bone, so this person can make a little bit on their end too. And this past week, they posted a card on Instagram that I was like, oh, look, this is a card that I would like to purchase, right? Something that would go in, into what I do in the hobby. So I reached out and I said, hey, like this card, let's get a deal done. And the price that came through was over comps. And I kind of laughed. I said, it's over comps. And I thought he was joking at first, and he says, no. He goes, no, I know, but that card's got a lot of room to grow. And I said, I understand that, but a lot of room is not now. I mean, this is what the comp is on the card. And they're like, yeah, no, I'm really firm at that price. I thought, oh, wow. Okay. All right. I'll think about it, but I'll get back to you. I'll let you know. And I started thinking to myself, I said, here I am, giving this guy good deals, right? Repeat customer, you want to give him good deals. And the first time I reached out to him, he had nothing to offer me, right? He could have said, look, I'm into this card for more than that. I mean, the only thing he said was, this card is going to go up, so this is a good price. You should buy it at this price. I was a little annoyed, not because I didn't get the deal, right? Not because I didn't get the card, but I felt I had a better hobby relationship with this person. I felt it should have been a no-brainer. a no-brainer that they said, "Yeah, I can do that for you." Since you're one of my wells that I go to get some cards, and I'm always offering, I'm never pumping up the price, I'm always offering a decent deal. And I usually don't reach out unless I can offer a deal on a card. If I have to be at comps or I have to be over, I have to be something like that, I would never reach out. Those are cards I just take to the show, and I try to figure out, what I'm gonna do with those or how I'm gonna move them. Um, and I thought to myself, it doesn't matter if it's hobby or business, right? Because even business owners, successful business owners in any business, they're always giving back to their customers. If you've got longtime customers, you're always doing something nice or just telling them, hey, I appreciate you. It's not all about getting every dollar, every penny out of you. I want to give you this, or I'll give you a discount, or I'd like to give you that. Um, and they give back to the communities, right? So there's a little give and take there. There's a little giving back. Um, and for most of us in this hobby, right, we're all trying to make a few dollars. I understand that. Whether it's to create some income, right, or just to reinvest back into the hobby, buying more cards to sell or trade, or even adding to our PC. Most of the people I know, everybody, nobody's in here to get rich. Like, and I don't think this is the place. If you wanted to get rich, this is the place to be. Maybe in 2019 and 2020, people came in and they certainly, made a lot of, but those days aren't here now. The markups on things, are very small. Nobody's getting rich here, so it's a different type of hobby. I think the hobby was in one place. It brought a lot of people in thinking they were going to get rich quick, and then I think it's dropped back to where the hobby once was. Um, when I first started setting up as a dealer, in my mind, my business mind, being a business owner, it was like, hey, how can we thank people for coming to the table or to hang out at the table or even make a deal, right? So I used to, and it wasn't something that I thought up. I heard other people talk about this. I used to buy blaster boxes or mega boxes, and I'd tear them open and I'd take out the packs and I'd mix them up. And when people were at the table and they came to the table with kids, I would hand the packs out to the kids. Right. I thought it was great for the kids. The parents liked it. It kept the parents at the table, that type of thing. Nowadays, those kids have bigger cards and more money in their cases than I do, right? And so it's interesting how the hobby has evolved to that level where most of the shows I'm at, there's very few little kids anymore, right? Every kid's got a box and it's got cards in it and all different values and things like that. But I would have to think that those kids started with some free giveaways, right, somewhere. So it was, something that brought them in. It was something that was given away for free, right? Not everyone, but I think a lot of them did, right? And even at that time, it it was more about the bottom line. Like when I was going out to the shows, I wasn't saying, "Oh, okay, I bought these blaster boxes or this mega box, and I have to add all those prices to this." No, that was just the over and beyond thing. Like, let me do something just to give back a little bit, and make some kids happy, make some parents happy. Um, and I think today, it just feels like it's kind of a different. And I'm gonna just talk about at shows now because the online stuff is just completely different. Um, and even though the online stuff is really part of a hobby, there's very little interaction, right? It's not personable like going out to a show and making a deal with somebody and shaking a hand, or making a deal with somebody and meeting up somewhere to, you're not actually meeting the people, you're packaging this stuff up and send it. And I tried to stay away from that as much as possible because I like the interaction. I like the face-to-face interaction, the deal, the sale, the thing like that. And I really just, if you can't beat them, join them type of thing. And I started selling on eBay and things like that, just trying to move stuff that I just can't move anywhere else. But the hobby is definitely evolved. Um, where I think the non face to face stuff is all about dollars and cents. It's all about the bottom line. I kind of understand that. Right. But I think the face to face, the stuff at the shows, the people you meet, I think it has to be more than that. I mean, for it to be a hobby, it has to be more than that. And maybe it's my age, and don't call me old, right? But I value the friendship and uh, the you know, it's more important, and you see, I stopped there because I really wanna say this the right way. I think it's more important for someone like me to have friends associated with the things I do, right? And I think it becomes more about the friends and the friendship in the hobby, and it's about the cards, but it's a lot less about the profit, right? And I think it just needs to be more about the money, especially this in-person stuff. It just needs to be more about the money. Um, and if you're accepting good deals, if people are offering you good deals, my opinion, there should be reciprocation there, right? Eh, I have many different types of friends in this hobby, right? I have friends that I talk to on a daily basis. I have friends that I travel with to the shows. I have friends that I set up with at shows, right? Um, I have hobby friends that we have a great understanding that we can do deals. We can buy and sell cards amongst each other. And we're pretty honest. Like it used to be in the hobby when somebody bought a card, I would say, "Oh, that's a nice card. What'd you pay for it?" And in the beginning, when I first got in the hobby, I mean, everybody used to say, "Oh, I got it for under comps. If a comps was 200, I got it for 150." Like they used to say, "I got this great deal on it." Right. But then I'd say, "Oh, really? Well, I'll buy it from you for 175 type of thing." I'm like, "Oh, no, no, no. I couldn't do that." So I never knew. And I don't think, I mean, I think I stopped asking people what they paid for a card because I don't think I ever got the right, the honest answer unless I was standing there anyways. Right. But then you get amongst people that you become friends with, and legitimately we just tell each other, yeah, this is what I paid for the card. And I understand, like, look, if the card is a $200 card, right, and you paid 180 for it, I'm not going to say I'm going to give you 180. You did all the work. As far as friends go, we'd say, hey, yeah, I'll throw you 200 for the card if I think it was worth it, if I wanted to buy it, like that type of thing. So we're a little bit more honest with each other in those groups, and I think there's a lot of those groups out there. I think there's a lot of groups with a lot of friends and a lot of honest friends in those groups, and I think that's what makes the hobby special, right? And I think if you're involved in one of these groups, or you're involved, or you found these friendships in the group, I think the hobby is a better place for you, because these are people that realize, you know, it's not about the money or the bottom line, but it's about the friendships and the relationships and getting out of something what you're putting into it, right? And I think that's so important too. I know a number of times I've talked on here that, you know, I worked in a prison for many years, and it was probably the worst negative environment you could ever work at, right? And people used to say, "Oh, it must be terrible in there." Well, yeah, it is for most people, but it's like anything else. You get out of it what you put into it. If you go in there with a positive attitude and you want to make a change and you want to create a good environment around you, you can do that. I don't care. Even in prison, I was able to do that, right? So you can do that anywhere, but it's getting out of something what you put into it. Um, and it's not worrying about if you've been slighted or this person got more than that it has nothing to do with that. When I started in this hobby, right, whenever I made a deal with someone for the first time, I always made them a good deal. First time customers, I always gave them a good deal, and I always said to myself, Hopefully they'll come back, right? It's just the beginning of many deals. Um, but that's really just part of business, right? Business 101. Take care of your customers and they'll keep coming back. The people who don't get this or just don't understand this, it becomes a very different hobby for them, especially for those who try to win every deal, right? But if they're happy with that being their lane in the hobby, that's how they choose the hobby. And I understand that, but it's not someone I want to associate myself with. We talk about our hobby circles, right? People like that to me, right, are on the outside of my hobby circles. Not saying that I dislike them or I'm saying they're not doing it right. Because they're doing it how they want to do it. But they just have very, very different views of the hobby than I do. We always talk about that person who comes up to our table and wants to sell their cars to you for 110%, but they want to buy our cards for 80%, right? We can't help but shake our heads. And if that's your lane in the hobby, that's fine. That's your lane. We're not going to make many deals. You and I, we're not going to make many deals. Um, but if you're in circa hobby circles, and you try doing that amongst your own hobby circles, you're not going to get many deals done, and you're going to find yourself on the outside of those circles. People are just going to push you to the outside of those circles because you're not bringing a very positive attitude to people who are generally happy doing what they're doing in the hobby. I've been blessed to find a number of great groups in the hobby um, that have been more like friendships and have become friends outside of the hobby, right? Which I think is so important that I have people that I can do stuff with socially, and we can do the hobby things in the hobby together. Um, that there's a ton of reciprocation. There's no bottom line. Uh, and these are the people I want to surround myself with within the hobby. These are the people that make the hobby a great place to be for me. And I say that when I started out this by saying here was a person who I'd been doing a number of deals with and really felt like I had a great relationship with there, but not somebody I knew that I did anything with socially or really knew personally, right? It was an like a eye opener for me. I a little, kind of woke me up a little, like okay, it's much different. Like here's someone who's willing to take but didn't want to reciprocate, right? So here's someone that's fine, but I'm not going to be offering my cards to that person anymore, right? Those cards, there's many other people that will buy those cards because I want to be surrounding myself with better people in the hobby than that. The Causeway show, Saturday. It was a great show. It was a great venue. It was right at the TD Garden in Boston. It was an easy drive. I went with my guy Rich at Zwittlerbug Cards. Um, the show was actually in a nightclub where a lot of the tables were VIP booths. So as the story was going, that the show got pushed from 9 a.m. to 10 a.m. because there was a concert or a show the night before that ended at 2:30 in the morning, and from 2:30 to 10 a.m. they have to clean. The new band comes in and sets up all their stuff, and they have to do sound checks and everything else before our show at 10 a.m. got started. So we walked in to set up during sound check. That it's like and it's like right around the clock, right? Somebody was in there working the whole time. But the our setup, we were right on the main aisle, which was, I just thought, a great place to be. Everything about the show was great to me, except for the music was loud. Um, of course, the speakers were right in front of us, and I just found, with the music going all day, I just found it, you know, a little bit more challenging to communicate with people at times. Like, for the most part, you could, but then there were times where the music got turned up even louder and you could hardly communicate with people at your table. Uh, it made for a little bit of a long day with the music being loud. And it was interesting to me how many people, like, you go to any of these shows and you see a lot of local people, or a show like this, you could tell how popular it was, that it really drew from Connecticut, Massachusetts, New York. I saw a ton of people there that, I hadn't either seen in a while or was surprised to see there. Even Bill and Billy made the ride up and hung out for most of the day. It was busy. It was busy all day. And there was a period from like 12 to 2 where it was just constant, negotiating, talking back and forth, back and forth. And it kind of slowed down. And we even had like a waitress come by and take orders, right, to bring us food, and our food had just arrived. It was like, oh, good, we finally get to sit for a few minutes and just have some food. And a kid walked up to my table, and I don't know if you're a dealer, this may have never happened to you. This is the first time it ever happened to me. But the kid walked up to my table and said, "Oh, I like that card. How much for that card there?" And I looked down at the case that he was pointing to, and I'm like, "Wow, that's a nice card." I forgot buying this card. I mean, literally, I forgot buying this card. And then all of a sudden, the like memories coming back to me of buying this card, but then I'm like, I don't remember the deal. I don't even know what to tell them for a price. I don't even know what I paid for the card, right? Then I scan the card, I'm looking at the price, and then, I mean, I know by what the comp was, what I probably would have offered and what I would have sold it for. So I gave him the price. We didn't end up making the deal, but it was probably about 10 minutes. And I'm like, oh yeah, that's right. That I bought that card and this is what I paid. Like, but there was that time that it was just so busy and so much was going on at once that when I finally sat to relax for 1 minute, I'm like, "Oh, I it's like a blur." Everything was like a blur. It was just crazy. I knew, like I said, I knew I bought the card. I knew I paid for it. I didn't know what I had bought it for. Um, I did some deals. I have to say that for the most part, and I was talking about this with my guy Rich on the way back. For the most part, I felt that people were in the ballpark with offers. You have those people that come in and they're offering, they're lowballing. I mean, everybody comes in at 70%, right? But there were a number of people that came in and you know, they were pretty close. Like they were, I want to say it's respectable, right? What they were offering for prices and, negotiating back and forth a little bit. The deals I did get done. And I kind of mentioned to Rich on the way up, I said, I'm going to be kind of firm on some of my prices because football season hasn't started yet. And this is the last of my football, and I don't want to give it away too cheap. I don't have any rookies. I've gotten rid of all my rookies. Um, It's a plan for me because you don't know what's gonna happen with them, right? I mean, the next couple weeks will tell if their prices are gonna go up or go down or stay the same. But I was happy to get out of the rookies. I'm sitting on veterans now. Veterans I talked about last week or the last 2 weeks, guys that I believe in, guys that I hope are gonna do well. It's no guarantee, but I wanted to stick close to prices, and I didn't wanna, be too quick to get rid of stuff. So I was still happy that I got a number of sales done. Only purchased a few cards that I actually dropped in my case, as far as buying goes. Um, and I'll go over my pickups, in a little bit. But, it was interesting. I think football was probably the number 1 buy and sell of the day, almost every case walking around. I mean, I think it was 90 or 95% football. That's what most people had in their cases, and that's what was being bought and sold. Um, I'm glad it was a one-day show. I know this show used to be a two-day show, um, but I don't think I could have made a second day of that. Um, and I have to say it was definitely an easier drive in and out of Boston than trying to come through New York, do a New York or New Jersey show on a Saturday. I mean, it was basically for the most part, a smooth drive home where you never see that coming out of New York. There's always traffic on a Saturday. The show ends at 4. I could think I've got a 3 or 3.5 hour drive home, you know, minimum coming out of New York. Some deals I did at this show. Shout out Nick at New England Pieces. I did a deal with him. He was one of the few people that had some women's cards, um, cards I'm looking for, anyways, in the NCAA, the Bowman U stuff. I did a deal with Nick, and we went back and forth and negotiated out for 3 cards. And after we got the deal done, he said, "Oh, by the way, I listen to the podcast every week. I love it." I'm like, "Damn, where was my discount, Nick? Why'd you make me work for it?" But yeah, I was happy to get this. I appreciate Nick. I appreciate the deal that we got done. Um, Juju Watkins, McDonald's, Ray Wave, it's the Topps Chrome, PSA 10. If you're on YouTube, I'm just going to hold these cards up. So, as always, I'm saying I'm looking for Juju Watkins. Here's another Juju Shimmer Refractor, another PSA 10. This is the Bowman U. And Paige Becker's Aqua, numbered to 299, PSA 10. I did a deal with Tom, Kirill Recognize Real. I bought 2 cards from Tom. I bought a 2023 Leaf Paige Becker's Autism Foundation, PSA 10, and this card is numbered to 1000. And Paige Becker's Bowman U Sapphire. This is the base Sapphire, PSA 10. Again, these are the cards that I'm looking for. I keep buying these up. These cards will probably be ready to come out in January, February, March, around there, as I think they should be at their height. Maybe a little sooner, but that's what I'm building for now. I want to talk about another deal I did. Is a sale I actually did. And I usually don't talk about my sales, but this one was with Quick Rips. And the reason I bring this up, these 3 guys, they came, they pulled some cards out of the case that they were interested in. They were there for a while before they even asked me to pull some cards out. They were looking and comping and then said, "Could you pull these cards out?" We pulled them out. They had a discussion about them. They comped, they looked, they comped. And when this starts happening, like when I see the cards that they pull out, I start in my head, I start adding up the prices. I kind of know what I need to get for them. And I kind of I become pretty good at knowing what people are about to offer. And in this case, the way it was going through, I had a feeling they were going to come out, they were going to start low. So I was prepared for them to start low, on an offer. And I knew where I wanted to be. I said, they're probably going to come out here, and this is where I'm going to bring them up to. And this is where my bottom line is going to be to sell these cards. And they said, "Look, we're interested in all these cards, and we're hoping you can get to this price." And the price they came out with was the price I said I would work my way up to. And I thought to myself, man, this is, to me, somebody coming in being just very respectful and just giving me a really strong offer on cards. Now, I could have been like, "Oh, I need to be at," and I could have tried to get a little bit more out of it, but I didn't need to. And because I appreciated them coming in with a strong offer, I shook their hands and moved on from that. And the reason I bring that up is it never happens. Never happens, right? Every time it's $100 or $200, and we got to go to work, and it's the next 20 or 25 minutes, trying to get to be where I want to be and where they want to be, and this and that. So, uh, accepting their offer was me just rewarding them, saying thank you for giving me a respectable, strong offer, and I appreciated doing business with them. I had two other pickups of the day. Um, a Josh Allen Thrillers Pandora. This card is numbered to 75. It's a PSA 9. And a 2023 Donruss Optic Kyler Murray. This is the case hit Blazers PSA 10. And this was the card in question that I didn't know I when I bought it, I didn't remember buying it, what I paid for. This was the card here. So, not big cards by any means, but just cool cards that I'm happy to have. Wednesday show, or Thursday show, I should say, I will have a guest on the show. It's going to be a great episode. Don't miss it. Look forward to it. It's going to be good. Guys are really going to like this one. Saturday and Sunday next weekend, I am in Stamford at Chelsea Piers for the Northeast Sports Card Expo. This is going to be a great show. If you're anywhere in the New England area next week, I definitely recommend this show. I did this the last show they had, I did, and I recapped it on the podcast. It was just an unbelievable show for 2 days. It was a ton of foot traffic, a lot of dealers, a lot of inventory, and dealers coming from far away. It's not, just a bunch of local people setting up. There were, New Jersey, New Hampshire, Maine, Massachusetts, just from all over. So it was definitely a good show with a lot of inventory and a lot of deals. So, like I said, if you're in the area, I definitely recommend the show. And if you come find me. Come find me and say hello. That's all I have. So looking forward to the first Sunday of football and Sunday night football and Monday night football, right? Let's go. I want to thank everyone for tuning in. If you like what you hear, please definitely subscribe, and most importantly, tell a friend and spread the word. Until next time, take care of yourselves and everyone around you.